They say you need cause to complain about the Brewers, and I have cause. It is because I hate them. I'm sorry. Wow. I didn't think I was going to get you. I hate the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm just going to say it. They are my least favorite team in sports. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. Welcome in to the Son of Man podcast. I am Alex, along with Ty, who may or may not be choking at the moment. Wow, I really got you. All right.
I mean, folks, this guy just develops these. It just changes the whole dynamic of this entire show with his opening. So
Well, I'm excited.
on. It's your show.
We have a hell of a show today. We're going to talk about Cubs Brewers, obviously, with the rain out. Not as much to dissect as we would have liked. Section B of our program, we're going to talk about some potential trade targets for the Cubs, even though we're a little early. We'll get into that in a little bit. We have a Shota Imanaga update, and then we'll talk about the upcoming Mariners series this weekend. But first, before we get into all that, do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button down below. Make sure you hop in the comments. I would imagine once we get to our B block here, y'all are going to have a lot of opinions, and I cannot wait to see what y'all have to say about that. So make sure to comment, like, subscribe, audio only. Hey, why don't you help us out and subscribe? Also, I'm going to be a little needier. How about a 5-star review or a 4-star review? But probably a 5-star review. We would like that. On Apple, Spotify, go ahead and review us and give us 5 stars if you would, please. That'll really help us out with that. Okay, enough of the self-indulgence. Cubs Brewers this week. Tuesday, one of my favorite games of probably the last 5 years. Absolutely electric. Today, even though the comeback effort came up a little short, another electric game. When these two get together, I'm sorry. I think this rivalry is more electric than Cubs Cardinals, at least lately. That's my hot take coming out of the gate. But Ty, this PCA guy is pretty good, huh?
We are so lucky, man.
Hell yeah.
So for you, I know that you aren't necessarily a full-on Chicago sports fan, which is a crime in itself. But when it comes to the city of Chicago, when is the last star the city had that brings that it factor like PCA does?
Well, if you're talking specifically Cubs, you're probably talking about Javi. And if you're talking in sports in general, man, I mean, it's been a minute. And until Caleb Williams does it, I would say he's probably the best competitor. But again, he's going into year 2. So I would say, just because football is football, I would say Caleb has the chance to take over the city. But before that, I mean, we're talking Javi, KB.
Rose.
Derrick Rose is probably the best nominee we're going to come up with.
We're coming up on almost 10 years of having like an actual star in the city of Chicago. And Alex, watching this player live was so much fun. I'm pissed that we couldn't have shifted the Milwaukee series to this past weekend when I was there, just because it was beautiful weather the entire weekend. We would have played 3 games, and I would have gotten to see one of the best defensive plays I've seen from a center fielder in a Cubs uniform in probably forever.
Yeah.
You got to see him all of a sudden go up to the dish the next game, the next inning, and go 452 off the scoreboard.
Literally within 5 minutes of each other. It just insanity.
It really is something that I wonder if, imagine if he signed that contract for whatever it was, $70-80 million.
Boy, would he
be the best contract in sports right now, in baseball right now, based on the fact of, what his value will be when he becomes a free agent post 2030. Yeah. So, Alex, I sincerely mean this. I've never enjoyed watching a ball player in a Cubs uniform like I have with PCA, because Javi, while on the defensive side and the base running side were pretty epic, I would say PCA has both of those attributes. On the hitting side, PCA's plate discipline is much better than Javi's, right? So he is the most electric player in the city of Chicago right now, and it's not even close.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm wearing his jersey. I mean, I'm not the only person. Even when they cut on marquee, everywhere you look, usually like the last 5 years, you go to a game or see it on TV, you're still seeing Rizzo's and Bryant's and Baez jerseys in the stands. And that's still the case for the most part. But I'm seeing an awful lot of number 4s around Wrigley Field on the marquee broadcast. He has taken over the city. He has taken over the sport. I was watching MLB Network after the game today, and Greg Amsinger did his top 9 center fielders. Guess who he had at number 1? It's just, and none of his competitors were close. The only one that was number 2 that was like, okay, you can make maybe an argument there was Byron Buxton. Everyone else is like, oh, no, nope, he's not on his level. It's just insane. And to show off how insane he is, we have a stat of the day. We haven't called in the choir in a while. Choir? Stat of the day. Pete Crow Armstrong. This is per Chris Kamka on X. Pete Crow Armstrong is the first Cubs player in history, the first Chicago Cub, with 20 homers and 20 stolen bases before the All-Star break. That is a 2020 season, and it is June 19th as of recording.
9:19 Wrigley time.
9:19 Wrigley time. I mean,
yeah.
It's insane. It's just everything. He's like a vitamin. Literally once a day, he does something unbelievable. It's crazy. And the vitamin is a horrible nickname, and I hope that doesn't catch on. But literally every game, there's at least one thing you're like, man, oh man, this is the guy for the rest of the decade will be our guy. It's insane.
Yeah. He's I mean, what does he get now? Is another question we can quickly answer here. I'll give you 5 seconds. What's your contract right now? 5, 4.
I mean,
3.
You can make an argument 250. I don't know the years, but you can make an argument 250 based on the last couple months. Now we got to see it for a full season, but I mean, 250 is not crazy. Looking at all these contracts, I mean, if Tucker's getting 5, you think higher than 250.
Oh my gosh, dude. This guy does everything. He's a $300+ million player.
Well, I hope you're right.
Well, I hope I am.
It's just
comment below if I'm wrong, which we'll probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 comments about how I'm wrong, but keep them coming.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He's unbelievable, and we're so lucky. All right, let's talk some negatives just real quick. Let's talk about Ben Brown, because he seems to be the hot button issue among Cubs fans. He wasn't super sharp, but his box score, 5 innings, 2 earned runs, 6 hits, 5 Ks. He did allow a 2-run shot early on, but then settled in. He wasn't super efficient. He was giving up a lot of hard contact. But at this point, I feel like we keep every start we have, we're like, oh, was this the one? Did he turn a corner? You know what this reminded me of? It was very Javier Assad-esque. There was a lot of hard contact. It was a lot of, oh boy, I'm not sure how he got out of that. And yet at the end of the day, he gave you 5 innings and only gave up 2. It was very Javier Assad-esque. But Ty, what's your general thoughts and feelings after this Ben Brown start as compared to the last one where he was really struggling against Philadelphia?
He's now had 3 appearances against the Milwaukee Brewers, and his first 2 were just absolutely outstanding. So he was bound to have an appearance against this ball club just because he's not a Freddie Peralta type pitcher that can have dominance for that long period of a time based on, his pitch portfolio that he has right now and how he has been this entire season. He's been a guy that's been up and down throughout the course of the season and has been a name that's been, connected to, is he a bullpen guy? Does he need to go back down to AAA and this and that? So I think overall for me right now with Ben Brown, I'm just happy to see him have an appearance like this that put him through a little bit of the mud, and he got through it. Because if you watched early, there were some concerns. And I felt at the beginning of that game that why in the world we don't do an opener with him still is beyond me. But again, he got through the first inning with 2 earned runs. He then settled in and ultimately got through 5. As a big league pitcher, you aren't going to have your best stuff, even the best of the best, all the time. And realistically, for Ben Brown, with him having a two pitch portfolio that we talk about time and time again, you're gonna have to figure out a way to minimize these poor performances. And people would look at that stat line and say, why is that a poor performance, Ty? It's not. Well, if you watch the game, he wasn't that great.
No.
But he made a couple pitches that got him out of it. And I feel like right now he's just holding the ground for us until Imanaga gets back. That's going to be fascinating to see what they do with Ben Brown.
Every day that goes by, I'm more and more convinced that he should just go down to AAA, maybe get his confidence up with a couple starts, and then come back for the rotation. I was listening to Northside Territory today, and Patrick Mooney and Shahadav Sharma were talking, and they both said they're beat writer. If you don't know who they are, they're beat writers for the Cubs. So they are, ungodly plugged in to this team.
For The Athletic, yep.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that too. They were talking about the Cubs believe that Ben Brown is a starter long term. They really believe that. So, do you risk putting him in the pen and taking away him being stretched out versus, all right, Imanaga's back. Cade has been dealing. Cade can stay. Ben, go down to AAA for a couple starts, get your confidence back, and we'll figure it out from there. Maybe. I don't know that he's been that good to stay in the rotation, but also you could make an argument for Colin Ray. Has he been that great in the rotation? But who knows? This pitching staff has kept this team afloat, and then you saw today. Of course, right after Ty and I gave him his praise on Sunday night for being dominant, he goes out there today and just got shelled. There's no other way to put it. He was really bad today. And so now what do you do?
Yeah. One more thing on Ben Brown that is a little bit of an interesting storyline with his pitches at this point is that everybody's mentioned he's had a changeup, right? He's bumped that up already 40 more pitches this year comparatively to all of last year, right? So I wanted to mention that. And now moving on to Tyone, okay? This was really bound to happen. And we did praise him like no other last time out. And look, I think people need to sort of pump the brakes on trying to make sort of Tyone this, number 2 or number 1 in essence of like an actual good starting rotation in all of baseball. He's a solid number 3. He's been pitching like a 2. So he's raised, it was insane what he did, at the start of the year. And look, again, everybody has a bad outing. Could have this been his one, just, hey, didn't have it today, things weren't working my way? Absolutely. But he just left so many pitches in the zone today, man. And the Brewers, man, they were hungry. And I could tell they were a little pissed off. Did you hear about what Pat Murphy said?
I did not. Please enlighten me.
So I might be misquoting this, folks, so I apologize. But basically, I guess the Brewers were really trying to make sure that they could get a second game in today versus moving the game to the series later on in the year, where I believe they're almost like a back-to-back series in Chicago. I might be wrong there, but basically Pat Murphy was like, "Oh, it's fine. Could have done it, but it's all good. It's fine." He was basically kind of little bit of a snarky comment, like, "Oh no, it could have really been done. It would have been fine doing both today, but it is what it is."
So in his defense, and I'm just looking at the schedule quick. So they're rescheduled to play August 18th, a doubleheader. That's a 4-gamer at Wrigley.
What a shame.
That's now a 5-gamer at Wrigley. That's a lot. For that reason, I don't blame him. Look, man, I hate the Brewers. So hopefully by then we have some of the trade targets that we're talking about, and then we kick the crap out of them.
Just awesome.
Hopefully.
I love it.
So I guess overall, before we move on, because we have a loaded B block segment, so we're not going to spend too much more time on the Brewers series, but they split. They don't lose any ground. In fact, let's do a quick standings update. So after the games today, Cubs are 5.5 up on the Brewers, 5.5 up on the Cardinals, 6.5 up on the Reds, and the Pirates don't bother. So they didn't lose anything from this series. So it was kind of a wash. It doesn't feel useless because I do think even today they came back when at 8-3, I'm thinking, okay, this is over. I started writing the outline for the show tonight. And all of a sudden it's 8-7, and Ian Happ gets a leadoff walk, which was a gift. The umpire was not great again today. Whatever. Robot umps 2026. But so with all that in mind, they split, nothing really lost. And you have to be encouraged by how they came back today and didn't just mail it in after they easily could have.
Absolutely. And look, this will be, I mean, we were sitting there earlier and I believe Kyle texted us or you texted us, Alex, saying, you know, I feel like an eighth inning comeback is inevitable.
Well, that was set up man Brian, yeah.
That was set up man Brian. Shout out Brian. It felt like this. I don't know. This team right now is sort of in this pattern of they are finding ways to win ball games. And today just felt like, you know, when we talk about, you know, do you accept this split, right? Do you accept the series split? And what did I say on Sunday, Alex? I said I wanted 2 out of 3 because I thought they were going to lose this game, which they ultimately did. Yep. And I felt like they were going to win on Tuesday. And then I thought they were going to get after the rookie in Mizorowski on Wednesday. So, you know, am I mad about the way that they played the last 2 games? Absolutely not. Again, the Tyone thing, it's a wash. Move on to the next one. Really excited to see how he does against St. Louis. But I felt like this team fought, and it gives me a good vibe as to, okay, when we're down that much, like we were against the Reds, like we were in other games throughout this season, it always feels like we have a chance.
Yeah.
That's the making of a great team.
For sure. Last year, even when it was 5-2 at one point, I would have been like, oh, we're done. And then this year, the Arizona game comes to mind where they had that crazy 8th inning.
Yep.
And that's just one example. There's been, it feels like 100 examples already. So, no, I'm with you. I am encouraged going up against this really weird Seattle team. It depends on what day you catch them. They're either really good or very huh? So I'm interested to see what they do coming to Wrigley. We'll get to that in a little bit. So overall, we're both, okay, series is kind of a wash. So we gave you the standings update. Time for some news and notes before we get to, my most anticipated segment that we've done so far as a network. I cannot wait. Shota Imanaga injury update. He will pitch tomorrow, or depending on when you're listening, he's pitching Friday. So tomorrow or today, however and wherever you're listening, thank you. But Shota Imanaga will be pitching at AAA Iowa, and a little nugget from David Kaplan on his radio show on ESPN 1000. He said that he's hearing potentially next Wednesday against the Cardinals could be his return. Now, that is going to factor in a lot of things. How does he look? How does he feel? Maybe he gets 2 starts at AAA, so that would basically push him back to that would probably be the first week in July, then he would be back. So there's a lot of things up in the air, but basically the point of even revealing that little nugget of information, he's close. He's a starter to an Iowa away from coming back. So that is all good news. All right, let's get to it. I'm so excited. So on today's show, the big thing we're going to talk about, we're still we're about 5-6 weeks away from the trade deadline. However, the rumors are floating. Rafael Devers got traded. Things are happening. Moving and shaking is happening. So we are going to talk about we each picked 3, so we have 6 total potential trade targets for the Chicago Cubs. And we're going to make our case for each of them. And then at the very end, we have a wild card. Who knows? It's never going to happen. Most likely won't happen. But wouldn't it be fun if ... But first, Ty, your first player you would like the Chicago Cubs to trade for this deadline season.
So, if I'm looking at the starting pitching market, I know that there have been quite a few names that have been out there. And realistically, for these three trade targets, we do want to make sure that we emphasize again that it's still a month and a half out. There's still a lot to happen, especially with some of even the players on the team, especially with the teams that some of these players we'll mention over the next couple of weeks. But they are names that have trickled through rumors as to what we'll see. So if I'm looking at the starting pitching side of things, there's been a lot of names. There's been a lot of people that want to talk about certain players that they feel like probably have the highest ceiling. I just really would like to have another solid arm in the rotation based on the fact of Colin Ray, Cade Horton, and Ben Brown sort of being that 4 and 5 and 6 right now. I just would like to solidify that a little bit better to have a nice 3 or 4. Personally, I would think Tyler Mahle from Texas would be a great option. He's on the last year of his deal, 6-3 record with 2.34 ERA with a 1.13 WHIP, 56 Ks to 27 walks, only 4 homers given up on the season. Now, what's interesting here is that he has a similar profile to a lot of the Cubs pitchers that are in the rotation right now. Not necessarily a high fastball velo, right around 92 miles per hour, but he does use a split finger like Shota Imanaga does. He has 2 primary pitches, as I mentioned, his 4-seam and his split finger. Fastball batting average against right now, right at 207, which is amazing. And then his split finger, hitters only hitting 198 against. So this would be an intriguing arm based on the fact of I don't think it would require you to give up that much from the prospect side of things, even though our prospects do have a little bit of traffic in front of them to be able to get on the big league roster. I don't feel like right now you'd have to give up that much for Tyler Mahle. Now, let me ask you this, Alex. Do you want me to also state who I think they should give up, or do you want to just discuss names?
I was trying to do when I was doing this exercise, I was trying to come up with potential trade packages, and I will take any potential trade package you have. So, absolutely, if you got it. I just feel like we're going to be saying a lot of the same names for these. I think Owen Casey, I would be surprised if he's still in the Cubs organization by the deadline. I think Kevin Alcantara is probably going to stay. He's been really hit or miss. He's in a cold spell now. Casey's heating up. Ballesteros, maybe, but not for Tyler Mahle. For a bigger name, I think he could potentially get moved. So I think we're going to end up saying a lot of the same names. This is what I'll say. If you don't know the name now, Jackson Wiggins is currently their top pitching prospect because Cade has technically graduated to the big leagues. He would be my only real untouchable from the minor league system. This team is good enough to win a World Series. I would keep Jackson Wiggins because we all know how precious pitching is. So, but yes, absolutely.
How about this? Why don't we just stick with names? But I think like a Tyler. So like for example, I think a Tyler Mahle isn't going to require a whole lot. Like I'm talking maybe. God, this is where it gets difficult because where does the value come into play? The value is going to change by the time. Why don't we just stick with names? Why don't we just stick with names right now? But we did mention a few names, folks. Like James Triantos is a name to watch out for. Yep, Jonathan Long. Obviously, we mentioned Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey. And I would agree. Jackson Wiggins would be a guy that I would really be sad to go because he seems like the next big arm to come out of the system. Who would be your next pick?
All right. So my name, everyone that is in the Cubs on Cubs Twitter basically has heard this name, has heard this rumor, but I just want to re-emphasize it because you know what the C in this guy's name stands for? Caballo. This guy is an old school horse, and I am talking about Sandy Alcantara from the Miami Marlins. He's the 2022 NL Cy Young winner this season. Coming off Tommy John, I'm not gonna lie to you, folks. It ain't great. He's 3-8 with a 6.88 ERA and 68 innings pitched. But when he is right, like I said, he is the last of a dying breed. When he is right and healthy and really just getting after teams, he's one of the last guys that can get you a complete game efficiently, by the way. And the thing that's interesting about his situation is he is under club control through 2027. So if you trade for him, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. But you now have someone who has won a Cy Young in your rotation for several years. And this is the best part. Tom Ricketts, I'm looking right at the camera. I'm looking at you, pal, because he's under contract. You already know what you will have to pay him. There's no extension. There's nothing. In 2025 and 2026, he's making $17.3 million. Why is that significant? Because that is less than what the Cubs are paying for Jameson Taillon right now. Not saying that's a super cheap deal, but for a top potential, he struggled this year. I get it. Potential top of the rotation guy, you're paying a few $1,000,000 more than you pay Matthew Boyd. Like, that's a really good deal that you would have in place. And there's a club option in there as well after after the 2027 season. So if it goes poorly, all right, we're not paying you that much. Club option. We'll see you later. Have fun in free agency. I just think there's a lot of good here. And yes, it hasn't always been pretty. He's starting to kind of round into form. He looked okay against the Phillies. He did give up a leadoff homer to Trey Turner, but then he kind of locked back in. I just think the value of his contract, what it's going to cost to get you, I don't think it's going to be as high as some people think. It's going to cost you. But I just think from what the Cubs value, which ownership, money, and they're looking for a horse. And like I said, this dude is a caballo. He is an absolute horse, old school style horse, and I would love to have him in the rotation.
So you make a very, very good point. And probably the worst thing that could have happened for the Cubs was his last 3 starts, which last 3 starts, 17 innings pitched, 12 hits, 4 earned runs. He did give up the 2 home runs against Philly, but 3 walks to 15 strikeouts.
Yeah.
He's come back into form here. And look, he's coming off TJ. It's very difficult for any pitcher to get it started, especially when you're on a ball club that is as bad as the Miami Marlins are. Probably could use just a change of scenery as well. But guess what? Even when the Marlins weren't necessarily at the peak of the peak, which has been a while, but even like when they were in the playoffs in 2018, like he still, what year did he win the Cy Young again?
22.
So even when the Marlins weren't necessarily in any running for a playoff appearance, he still showed out. So it's in there. He's a guy that the Cubs would, I think the Cubs would be a beautiful match with just how well they've done with all these arms thus far. And yeah, it's a great pick.
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned it. I didn't even say the most maybe important point. Look what they've done with Drew Pomeranz, who looks like his all-star self again. Brad Keller, all the names that we talk about all the time. I mean, those are, let's call them average to above average pitchers. We're talking about a guy that has the potential to be elite, and you get him in your system where you've been doing really well pitching, sky would be the limit. So this one, I know we're not talking packages. I would be willing to give up quite a bit for a guy like this, especially under team control. But Ty, your second name that you would like the Cubs to go after.
Well, I'm going to go with the relief pitcher here, and he was a guy that somehow, some way, his 2024 campaign, the first half was unbelievable. Basically a guy that many looked at and said, why isn't he getting dealt at the trade deadline, but ultimately did have a brutal second half. That would be Kyle Finnegan, who's had a really, really nice year thus far. He did get non-tendered in the offseason, then he re-signed with the Nationals on a 1-year deal for $6 million, and that has paid off. 18 saves thus far in 26 innings pitched, a 3.12 ERA, and 8 walks to 21 strikeouts. Now, Alex, this brings up the question about the bullpen and how much better do you want it to get, because it's been outstanding. It's ranked number 4 right now in bullpen ERA across baseball. But I think you and I could both agree on something: more the merrier. And that's where I'm at right now, because while I'd love to have Daniel Palencia be our closer for the rest of the season, he has earned that opportunity. I would just like to have a little bit more on the back end of the bullpen to avoid the injury issue that we've already seen with a guy like a Porter Hodge. And again, this is a long season, folks. We're still not even, I think we're just coming up and halfway through. Yeah. So I could just use a little bit more in the back end of the pen. And I think that while Kyle Finnegan isn't your Aroldis Chapman 2016 signing, I think that what Craig has done a great job of is using the bullpen to the best of its abilities. And I think that he would put Kyle Finnegan in the best spots possible. And I believe he would probably end up being the closer. But could you imagine a 7, 8, 9 where you have Caleb Thielbar, Porter Hodge, Daniel Palencia, Kyle Finnegan, not mentioning guys like Drew Pomeranz, Brad Keller. I mean, now we're talking a serious level bullpen. How funny is it that I mentioned Brad Keller after all those names, and he should be in freaking Atlanta here coming up here next month. So that is my pick, who I'd like to see them grab at the deadline. But I'd love to hear what yours would be or your thoughts on Kyle Finnegan.
So funny you mentioned Aroldis Chapman, because I was debating him. I don't know that the Cubs would go down that road again. And Boston's only 5 out in their division. New York has really, the Yankees, that is, have really struggled lately. So I don't know. And plus, they just traded Devers. I don't know what Boston's doing. So I didn't want to go down that road.
Yep.
There's a fella in Colorado that I have fallen in love with. It is a full-blown man crush. You're not, I'm guessing 90% of you that are listening to this are going to have no idea who this person is. But it is a reliever for the Colorado Rockies. His name is Jake Bird. He is a relief pitcher as well. He's 29 years old. On the season, he's 2-1 with a 2.16 ERA, 41 and 2/3 inning pitch. For a reliever, that's a lot this time of year. He's got 54 Ks and another guy who's under control for a longer period. He's under control. He's got 3 years of arbitration coming up, so I don't know if the Cubs want to deal with that. But he has been lights out, and he's older, 29 years old. He won't be a free agent until he's 32. And even if it's arbitration, that's what? Even if he, like, the higher end would be like $5 million. Right now, he's not even making $1 million. Like, cheap guy. He's got a heavy sinker slider mix, throws a cutter in about the mid 90s, 94.5, I believe it said on Baseball Savant. And this is the other thing, 93rd percentile this season in strikeout rate, which is just outrageous. This kid, older guy, he's younger than me, so I guess he's a kid. This guy could come into your bullpen and just give you a little different look that you don't have. And I'm telling you, folks, he is electric. I watched a game, Rockies-Giants, late night last week. The Giants were kind of clawing back. They threw this kid in, and he pitched, I believe it was 2 innings, perfect. I think he struck out 4 out of 6 batters he faced. He was unbelievable. Now, this is a guy, I don't know if the Rockies would trade him. Again, that's another organization. I don't know what they're doing. I felt like they should have been sellers last year. They just didn't do anything. So I don't know what the Rockies are going to do. I don't even know if this guy's available. But it's a name I want to put on your radar, because in 6 weeks, if the Rockies say, yeah, okay, we need to reboot this thing again, this kid could be something special for the pen. Just a little sprinkle of sugar on all the good stuff we got going on down there. So Jake Bird is my second name.
I like it. And I mean, realistically, with the Rockies at this point, you are not competitive for another 25. I mean, kidding. 5 years probably, right?
No, 25 years might not be that crazy. I just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel for them.
So they're an organization right now that wants to, obviously, they're trying to somehow, some way, trying to form some form of, I don't even know if you want to call it a rebuild. I would call it a disaster. So you might as well just get the little pieces that you can to come back in. So for a reliever like Jake Bird, who is, you could implement him at any point throughout a game. I mean, could you do that with Kyle Finnegan? Sure, but it feels like with a guy like Jake Bird, he feels like a guy who can come in the 6th inning or 7th inning, and it feels like you can have him in multiple roles. So I love the pick. I thought he was a very intriguing name. It was somebody that I was considering as well.
Well, and just like today, they throw Genesis Cabrera, and Cabrera's been fine, but today I think he gave up. He gave up the 3-run homer to Isaac Collins. Wouldn't it be nice? Cabrera's been fine. No disrespect to him. But wouldn't it be kind of cool to have a guy that has a crazy slider and a crazy sinker? He gets a lot of ground balls, like, especially on a day like today. He just seems like a guy who would fit not only in the Cubs bullpen, everybody's bullpen would be looking for a guy like this. So, all right, we are 2 names in. Ty, your third and final realistic name before we get to the crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, this kind of goes against my tweet the other day, which I mentioned was Mr. Matt Shaw. While the ups and downs at the plate have definitely been evident and really, really on the low side lately, his defense is what's kept him afloat, right? 3 errors so far in 2025. He's been tremendous over at third base from a defensive perspective. But this team is trying, obviously, to win a World Series this year. You have to upgrade that position because right now it's a black hole in the lineup. So, my player that I would love to see, who just had an absolute nuke here today, is Eugenio Suarez from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now, as I mentioned before I get into Suarez and what I think of him and stuff, the D-backs are in a really interesting spot, folks, because they have a lot of names on the last year of their contract, like Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, as I mentioned. Eugenio Suarez also is on the last year of his deal as well. So they are in an interesting spot. They're hovering around that last wild card spot. But if things do go south here over the next month and a half, I can definitely see them trying to get whatever they can at the deadline now that Corbin Burns is out for the rest of the year. So, stat comparison to my long-term third baseman for the Chicago Cubs, Matt Shaw. Suarez, 788 OPS, Matt Shaw, 624. 21 home runs for Mr. Eugenio. Kidding. 2 home runs for Matt Shaw. This is the one that gets me, though. 58 RBIs for Mr. Suarez to 9 RBIs for Matt Shaw. Now, Suarez does have 9 errors on the year over at third base comparatively. Like I said, to Shaw's 3, and Shaw has a 973 fielding percentage comparatively to Suarez at 951. Obviously, Suarez has played more games, so give him the benefit of the doubt. But if we're looking for names right now that can make an impact on this roster, Suarez is definitely a player that to keep an eye on here over the next month and a half. I have always loved what he's done as when he was with Seattle, which they got a bag of chips for Arizona did when they got him from Seattle. Could have easily been a name the Cubs targeted. It's the last year of a contract. You don't got to worry about anything after this year. I do not see this as a Yeimer Candelario situation at all. So I would love to see him on the north side of Chicago, maybe in a few weeks before the deadline. But I believe this will be, I think, Suarez. Do you want me to say his first name again? Or
Absolutely, please.
Eugenio Suarez. Sorry to all the folks that just got to hear that 7 times and probably just spilled their coffee out of their hand, but deal with it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I like Suarez.
I got to tell you, I really like that. And I know I'm not supposed to say that because I really like Matt Shaw. But you know what? This team's good enough. And yes, I get he's on the PCA track. He's been really good defensively. You can rely on him every day. But the bat, he had one swing on Tuesday where he went opposite field gap, and it's like, oh, okay, kid, here we go. That's what we want to see. And then he looked overmatched in every other at bat in the series. It's tough because you don't want to stunt his development. Clearly, he's mastered AAA. Every time he's gone down there or has been there, he's dominated. So I don't know what you do with him at this point. Maybe he will figure it out in July like PCA did. But until then, he has not been great at the plate. As good as he's been defensively, PCA was never quite this bad at the plate. And it absolutely, you could see my body shrinking up because I hate saying it out loud. But the fact that you would have a veteran third baseman that hits absolute nukes, yeah, that's definitely intriguing. And if you really want, I don't know that they would do this, but you could keep Matt Shaw on the roster. You could DH him, rotate him in and out, and he could be a really good defensive replacement late in games.
And he's amazing on the base paths.
That too. He can run for Suarez. He's got value. He could do what John Birdie's doing now, because John Birdie ain't great at what he does. It would be an upgrade in that spot. It would lengthen your lineup. It's not crazy. As much as I like Shaw, that's not a crazy thought. I
Well,
feel like.
and this also gives the opportunity for, let's say, if they want to give Seiya a day off, or they want to give Tucker a day off, we don't have to put Justin Turner on the field, and you can keep Matt Bush or Michael Bush. Whoa, sorry, Michael Bush over at first base, and Suarez can DH, and Matt Shaw can play third base. That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. And do we know, has Suarez ever played first base in his life?
I would have to look that up, but I'm going to say
I don't
right now, probably not. And let's
Okay.
not assume that.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but if he had any experience, okay, instead of Justin Turner playing first, you could put Suarez there instead of, there's a lot of good things that would do for your lineup. So that's not crazy. All right. My third name, also from the Arizona Diamondbacks. So the idea being, if they get up the track and decide, you know what, we don't have it this year. Corbin Carroll just got banged up. I think he's still playing. I haven't seen any IL stuff from him yet, but he got banged up. They're currently, let's take a look here. They're currently 8.5 back in the West. They have to climb over half a dozen teams to get to the wild card. So they're already in position where if things go bad for like a week or two, they might just be sellers. So how about a 29-year-old pitcher by the name of Zach Gallen, the former All-Star this season, 4-8, a 5.19 ERA, which is not great for him. He's technically having a down year by his standards. 86 and 2/3 innings, 81 strikeouts, only under contract through the rest of the year, so it would be a rental. And career ERA is 3.47, so clearly having a down year. He's been in Arizona for 7 years. Maybe it's just time for a change. Maybe there's a pitcher-friendly ballpark in the Midwest that would love to have a guy like that. And I just think he's a change of scenery candidate who was a former All-Star who could really just help out this rotation. And if you're not going to pay up for Sandy, okay, that's fine. You wouldn't have to pay as much for Zach Gallen. And that's another guy you put in your pitching lab that has been incredible this year. Hook him up with Zombro, Hadavi. Maybe he turns it around. Maybe he has such a good second half. Maybe he does sign a little bit of an extension. That wouldn't be crazy numbers. Maybe, just maybe. So while I still want Alcantara more, the Zach Gallen possibility really intrigues me. And I think it's realistic if they go up the track.
Absolutely. I for some reason could see them more going after like a Merrill Kelly based on the starting rotation that the Cubs have, and not necessarily relying so much on velo. But I will say this: would I be pissed off if they got Zach Gallen at the deadline? Absolutely not.
The milkman.
So the milkman. So didn't have that in my cards tonight. I'm uncomfortable now. So good pick, man. Good pick. I'm so happy for you.
Grazie. Wow. That was like tasing you. You totally froze up. All right, let's get weird. Okay. Now it's time for our wild card.
Wild card! Yeah! Now you want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts.
So that really is just for my own entertainment and to see if I can get Ty to laugh.
This show is for your only entertainment, by the way. This is
sometimes. All right. So our wild card pick. Let's get to what the idea is. So basically, this is a person, might be available, depending, might, but this is a real long shot. The odds on this would be through the roof. You could bet $1 and win $1 million. Like, this is not something we think is going to happen. But let's have a little fun. Ty, your wild card pick for deadline.
So this team has been one of, or the most disappointing team in all of baseball. A core group of players that the last couple of years have had the opportunity to be in the playoffs. And ultimately this year, they just do not have it. And while this organization has changed ownership, they, for some reason thought that they could buy names off the market that felt like they would be fives or basically in AAA to support the rotation. I personally would trade Jackson Wiggins in this trade.
Holy smokes.
I would love to see them, the Chicago Cubs, trade for Gunnar Henderson
Yo!
and Felix Bautista.
Yo!
And yes, is it wild? Is it obscene? Absolutely. And again, first round pick for the Baltimore Orioles might even been like top 10. But hear me out here. Okay, so hear me out. So Gunnar Henderson has played third base, and he's done an incredible job at it. In this trade, I think that they would have to send Matt Shaw along with Jackson Wiggins to Baltimore. Okay. Gunnar Henderson, though, has been considered, despite this year, as one of the best young talents in all of baseball. He's under control till the end of 2028. Yeah, he's got a 790 OPS this year with 8 homers and 22 RBIs. So be it. He's not on a winning ball club this year. And when he's been on a winning ball club, he's been what's carried the team. I think Gunnar Henderson would be a tremendous add to the team. I think everybody on here would agree. And is it too much out of the cards? Probably. But then you also add a horse at the end of that bullpen in Mr. Senor Bautista.
Yeah.
I am Glev. He's under control till the end of 2027. Now, Cano was also a name that I thought about, but if we're making this a really, really bold trade, I think a guy like Felix Bautista would just be like, you know what? Ice cream, the cherry on top of a good Sunday over there at DQ. 14 saves in 25 innings thus far, 33 Ks to 17 walks, and a 148 batting average against. He is coming off Tommy John surgery, so that would be a little bit of a concern. But realistically so, if I were to tell you, Alex, that the Cubs would be having an infield of Gunnar Henderson, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, and Mr. Michael Busch, with an outfield of Ian Happ, PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, if you don't know his name by now, Kyle Tucker, and a man by the name of Seiya Suzuki in the DH spot, Miguel Amaya and Carson Kelly behind the dish, with a solid rotation and now a bullpen that would dominate any offense in all of baseball. Do you consider them the World Series favorites in the National League?
Well, I mean, you add those two guys, absolutely. I mean, to quote the great piece of cinema, Wayne's World, swing. Like, holy cow. Can you imagine how incredible that would be? Now, here's the deal. I'll get to my pick in a second. Mine is not that sexy. Let me just prepare the audience. Oh, no. I think we're playing a different game because you went real big dreaming. I went like, oh, this would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
no,
that's the point of this exercise, folks. By the way, believe me, this is a 0.00001% chance, but felt like it was a fun one.
That is a fun one. And actually, just Bautista by himself, I debated because Baltimore, folks, they are 11.5 back in their division. The wild card, they're starting to fall out of that too. They've just been really shockingly bad.
Brutal.
All the talent they have. Yeah, Bautista's definitely a guy I have circled if they decide to go get boss type reliever.
Yeah. So you're talking. I'm thinking you got to send Shaw, you got to send Jackson.
Oh, you got to empty. That's the cabinet. That you got to empty.
And then you're talking probably two more pretty solid names. I'm thinking I'm throwing Casey in there, Alcantara, and then you probably got to throw in another one. I mean, this is
for
serious.
That, you're probably throwing in Ballesteros too.
Yeah,
minimum.
Yep.
Yeah,
would be fun though.
Oh my god, it'd be amazing. What are you talking about? Oh my god, yeah, it would suck because all those guys and Wiggins, like that would suck. But also, you're getting a young MVP candidate and a guy who could win reliever of the year like year in, year out. So absolutely. All right. Well, mine's not as sexy, folks, but I want to focus on the Anaheim Angels. You know, the Cubs need a starting pitcher. The Anaheim Angels have a guy that's on a 1-year deal. You may remember him. He's an old friend who's been pitching really well lately. You know where I'm going with this. What about reunited and it feels so good? Kyle Hendricks. He has been really, really good for the LA Angels. And folks, we're past April, May, where we know he struggles. This year, 5-6, a 4.79 ERA, not great. 77 innings pitched, but in his last 5 starts, 3-1, a 3.94 ERA, including shutting out the New York Yankees. There's no shot that they're gonna go back to this. No shot. But you want someone, a reliable starter. You know you can get quality innings out of him. You know he's been in your building, so you know he's comfortable there. It's a long shot, but if they strike out on Alcantara, they strike out on Gallen, they strike out on whoever else may become available, maybe bring back a 2016 World Series hero for one last ride now that the team is good again. Just a thought.
And Zach Neto. And then we'll call this an unbelievable trade. Look, you would have, obviously, from the outfield perspective, there's no opening. So, like, a Taylor Ward obviously would not be a name. Joe Adell's actually had a decent year thus far. And obviously,
I was just saying, Taylor Ward has been pretty bad this year.
Taylor Ward.
Usually
has
good.
He been?
I believe, let me check Baseball Reference as you keep talking. Let me just double check.
So I like your idea of a name like Kyle Hendricks, just because of the fact of, you do make a good point where it's like, really, like, would he actually, like, would that necessarily be a target? I would love to look at a guy like Kikuchi, because of the fact of he's been outstanding the last couple of years and has looked good thus far as well. And well, I have one more name that you could throw in there.
Oh, what would that be?
I would like to see a little bit of Logan O'Hoppe in there too.
Good
see,
call.
That's where we get. That's
now
where
we're playing the game.
This deal. That's where we can get a little crazy with this deal.
Yep.
Now, not necessarily a great year for him either, but again, when you get on a good team, we all who has ever played baseball, who listens to this podcast, knows this. When you're on a good team, you play better. It makes a difference. So, I love it.
Yeah, right. And just to close the loop on Taylor Ward, this year, 209 batting average, only, 49 RBIs. He does have 18 homers, so he is slugging, but he ain't really hitting the ball all that well outside of slug. His slug is up, OPS only 732. But, I mean, if you brought him back, cool, because according to his Baseball Reference, he can also play third base. It's something. So I don't hate that, but I like O'Hoppe a heck of a lot more. All right, we have gone probably a little too long, so let's quick zoom through the upcoming series against the Mariners. Cubs-Mariners, Game 1, George Kirby going up against Matthew Boyd tomorrow at 1:20 at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. George Kirby on the season, not great by his standards. He's 1-3 with a 5.96 ERA, and he has never faced the Cubs before. Matthew Boyd will be opposite him for the Cubs. 6-3 on the season, a 2.79 ERA, the Cubs' best pitcher this season so far. Career against Seattle, he is 2-2 with a 4.78 ERA in 32 innings pitched. So that will be a good one tomorrow. Saturday, it'll be Emerson Hancock versus Cade Horton. Emerson Hancock on the season, 3-2 with a 4.48 ERA with a 62 and a third innings pitched. Career against the Cubs, he does have one outing. He went 6 innings. He did take the loss and has a 3 flat ERA. Cade Horton just keeps getting better and better, man. On the season, 3-1, a 3.47 ERA, and obviously his first time facing Seattle. And we close this baby down on Sunday, Game 3, a really, really tough game for the Cubs. They'll be going up against Logan Gilbert, the ace of the Mariners staff. He will be facing Colin Ray. Gilbert on the season, 1-2 with a 2.55 ERA in 35 and 1/3 innings pitched. This will only be his second start after coming off the injured list. And Colin Ray on the season, 4-2 with a 3.84 ERA. Hasn't been great as of late, but still taking valuable innings and pitching valuable innings for the Cubs. So, kind of a weird series. The Mariners come to town. Ty, what should the goals be for this series?
2 out of 3, my good friend Alex, because I do not see how in the world they beat Logan Gilbert on Sunday.
Agreed.
It just does not feel good with Mr. Colin Ray versus Logan Gilbert. But Colin Ray also did this against Tyler Glasnow in LA a couple of months ago. So who really knows what we're going to get for Mr. Ray? But realistically, look, George Kirby and Emerson Hancock are no slouches, great arms, but I feel like from the offensive standpoint for the Mariners, they're not at the level the Cubs are. Yes, they have Mr. Cal Raleigh, who his nickname is
the Big Dumper.
He leads all of baseball with 27 home runs. So he has had an outstanding year. Of course, they have names like J.P. Crawford, Randy Arozarena, and Julio Rodriguez, but haven't really necessarily shown that much from an OPS perspective at number 15 in all of baseball and number 14 in team ERA, which, again, yes, the starters this weekend don't necessarily show that, but something to watch out there. And then finally, from the bullpen side of things, they do have Andres Munoz, who has been outstanding this year, tied third in saves in all of baseball at 18, but it's a middle of the pack for the bullpen ERA. So overall, I hope this team, which is a question that you had actually asked in our outline, which was, are we concerned about the home run ball? I'd like to see the team get a little bit back to a little bit more small ball, having a little bit more fun. Hey, maybe Matt Shaw, maybe we bunt a little bit. Maybe we try to find ways to get runners to move across other bases. So overall, I feel fairly confident about this just because I believe Matthew Boyd will outpitch George Kirby. And I believe Cade Horton is really starting to come into his own and has earned that opportunity to stay in the rotation when Imanaga comes back. While, like I said, Kirby and Emerson Hancock are very good arms, I just don't see how the Mariners offense will do, especially at Wrigley. And with it now heating up, I think the Cubs offense really comes alive. It's supposed to be 90 plus every day this weekend in Wrigley. Now it's 117 degrees here in Phoenix, Arizona. So I'd rather be there, but the Cubs are going to win 2 out of 3. Book it.
You know what? No more questions, Your Honor. I am right there with you. I think you said everything that I was going to mention. I feel good about tomorrow. I feel good about Saturday. Sunday, not so much because, A, they don't play great on Sundays. And Logan Gilbert, even though coming off injury, pretty darn good, kid. So, yeah.
Amazing.
2 out
Talk
of
about
3.
a name the Cubs should go after. Wait, what was that? Did I just spell that? Did I just say that for my possible trade deadline preview in next month? What? Did I?
What month is it? Didn't we have this conversation in like December? I mean,
We did.
Yeah, the Nico Horner rumors. Maybe they'll start back up. You never know.
Yeah, Nico Horner for Logan Gilbert was kind of an interesting trade there, but yeah, it is
sure as hell wouldn't do it.
Dude, this
now,
was fun.
you know.
This is a great episode. Look, folks, we are a month and a half away from the trade deadline, and we felt like this was a segment we should have done. Where we should do, just because this is getting real, and the Cubs have built up a gap in the standings right now to afford this conversation. And I'm just glad that I got to do it with you, brother.
Oh, thanks, man. You too. Appreciate you. Love you, bud. And we love you, Setup Nation. So we are going to wrap up this episode right now. Thank you for joining us. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for us, and help us out there. Make sure to hit the comments. Would love to know who you would like the Cubs to acquire. Dream big. It's just a comment section. We'll take all the answers. For the record, we look at the comments. So absolutely dream big. Whoever you want the cut. Now, don't say Aaron Judge. They're not getting Aaron Judge. But, if there's some targets you see fit, throw it in the comment section. We'll take a look at it and we'll get back to you. And if you're listening on audio only, well, what are you doing? You're missing out on so much great content on YouTube, but that's okay. No judgments here. But if you want to do us a favor and help support the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And don't be afraid to leave a little 5-star review. I mean, for God's sake, I sang Reunited for you people. A 5-star review is nothing compared to me throwing myself out there. So as I self-indulgently end the show, thank you, Setup Nation, for watching. Thank you to Ty for joining me and just embracing all of my nonsense. Thank you to Setup Nation for your support and really engaging with our nonsense. But we're going to go ice up. We will be back Sunday night to recap the Seattle series and talk about whatever else is going on in Cubs Nation. But we are at the hour mark, so Ty and I are going to go ice up. We'll see you Sunday.
Good night, Ken.